if you come on air. Plus, I'll address your question. This can be about, again, the pillars of success. It can be about your life. It can be about money. It can be about the mindset. It can be about investments, whatever you guys want the question to be. So let's go ahead and see if we can get some questions coming in. Do you have anything on coming through? And again, we're looking for, yeah, you need to find that. There we go. All right, nothing yet. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and actually cover one that actually Cal and Joe had put last night as a question. And again, all you got to do is that number, again, 402-256-5236, is send your question along with your name, and then Bree will go ahead and dial you in to put you on air with me. Cal and Joe had the question. She was actually talking about her workouts and her diet, but this applies to everything in your life. And the question was, what do I do to stay consistent? How do I stay consistent? When I go to the gym, I crush it. I know people as well in business, they're really good at what they do, but they end up procrastinating, or they end up not pushing through, or they're not consistent. How do you get yourself to be consistent? Well, understand something. Your brain, again, I've talked about this for many, many times. Your brain is 1 million years old, right? The evolution of your brain is over 1 million years old, and your brain was taught to keep you away from pain. So back 1 million years ago, if you saw a saber-toothed tiger running after you and you didn't run, you were going to be dead. So your brain is designed to keep you away from anything that is painful. So if you want to be able to accomplish whatever your goals are, you first have to identify what you actually want. So that's the first thing. And to identify what you want, you have to say, why am I going to do this? So here's what I want to accomplish. So if it's working out, 5 days a week, 6 days a week, if it's eating, correctly, what do you actually want to accomplish? What is your why? Once you have that why, if that why is big enough, you will walk. If you have a brick wall coming in front of you and you can't get to the gym, you can't do something, you'll go around it, under it, over it, through it. You'll do whatever you have to do to get that end result, right? So the first thing is you have to create a big enough reason why. Second thing is you have the pain of doing it, so whatever it might be, the pain of pushing through, of knocking on the next door, making the next phone call, the pain that you have to do to go to the gym, to get up early in the morning, to push yourself to do the things you don't want to do. You will not do those things that are painful to you unless the pain of not doing them is more. So in other words, you have to associate more pain to being a fat ass, more pain to looking like shit in the mirror, more pain to putting your bathing suit on and feeling like crap. You've got to associate more pain to that than the pleasure you're getting off of eating the junk foods or not working out, laying in bed and sleeping. You have to associate more pain to not doing it than the pain of doing it. You also, something else that it's interesting, so in a room of, let's say, 1,000 people that I'm talking to, and I ask people, how many of you guys work out 5 to 6 days a week? And I'm in front of people who are very successful people, and so you would think that, these people are in the top 5% or the top 3% of people, right? Most of the people are 6-figure or even 7-figure income earners, and I ask them, how many of you work out, let's say, 2 times a week, or 3 times a week, and then 5 times a week, 6 times a week? And so when I have those people stand up that work out at least 6 times a week, I obviously look at how they look, and I'm like, I can tell you work out, or I can tell this is something that's a ritual for you. So people have these excuses that I don't have the time, I don't feel like it, and I ask the people that are standing up, why do you work out? Why do you push yourself? Why do you eat right? Why do you do these meal prep? All these things are not comfortable for most people, and what you'll find out is it's their identity. Their identity is this person, this fit person, this person that feels like a gladiator, this person that's unstoppable, this person that pushes through. And so because of that identity, them not working out isn't even something that pops into their head. Them not going and eating correctly doesn't pop into their head, because the second they eat a bowl of ice cream, they see themselves as a fat ass. The second they don't go to the gym, and what you have to understand something is all this stuff creates momentum. You've ever had the morning where you wake up and the alarm goes off, like Monday morning for most people, the alarm goes off, you feel like shit, you don't want to work out, or you don't want to go to work, whatever it might be, you hit snooze, you hit snooze, you hit snooze, right? So you keep doing that. What happens throughout your day? You get out of bed. Let's say you stub your toe on your bed as you get out of bed. Then you brush your teeth and the toothpaste goes all over the floor. Whatever it might be, you start spiraling yourself, right? So you start attracting these things into your life. So when you get up in the morning, whether you hit the snooze or not is the first decision you make. That's going to set the tone of your day. Whether you get up and go to the gym is going to set the tone for the day, or whether you procrastinate. All of these things create compounding effects on your life. So the question was, again, how do you get yourself to push when you don't feel like pushing? And the answer is you do it anyway. If you don't feel like it, you do it anyway. In fact, when you don't feel like it, then you need to do it. One of my mentors, Jim Rohn, used to always say, when you think you can't, you must. When you think you can't do it, you must do it. You've got to push yourself through, and that will carry it over in every area of your life. So what if every single time, if you look at your life or yourself as a rubber band, what if every single time and I will say this to you, that success is right outside of that comfort zone. You're stretching yourself, stretching yourself, stretching yourself. If you did that to every single area of your life, that when you thought you couldn't, you pushed through and you did it anyway. When you felt like you've got to, I have the same battle every day. I have the battle you guys do. I get up in the morning, may not feel like it, may not feel like the gym, may not have, there's easy excuses. Hey, I've got a full schedule today. I literally, in front of camera, on the camera or on the phone, I have 7 hours straight of videos and calls today. I just got off a video right before this, 20 minutes before this. I don't always feel like it. But you know what I do? I tell my brain I am the fucking boss, and I do it anyway. All right, other questions?
We've got one from Martin.
Okay, Martin Kirk has a question. We're going to see if we can get him on the phone. And Martin Kirk, again, a 3-month subscription to Audible. That's him. No, it's not voicemail. That's the Google.
Okay.
Sorry, Mark. We're figuring out technology. Ooh, nice Australian accent there.
Kori.
Answer the phone, Martin. Answer the phone. This is fun. This feels like we're on a talk show or something. Yeah, I will.
Hello?
Martin, you are on the air. How are you, brother?
Hey, Kori. How you doing today?
I'm doing awesome. What is your question or comment, or what's happening in your life?
No, everything's good. My question to you was, I was going to ask was, since you started doing your social media push, I know that you've put a lot of effort into it over the past, I guess, year, or I don't know how long you've been doing it yourself, but I was wondering how you gauge your actual return on that time, as well as what your benefits have been. Like, what have you noticed?
That's a great question. So, again, for those that mentioned this question, I think actually Instagram should be able to hear that. So, Martin's question had to do with the time that I spent on social media and how long have I put time and energy into it, and what does that return back to me? Well, first of all, the great thing, Martin, about the time that I spent on social media is it's the same amount of time I was spending anyway. So, in other words, the same thing I do with you guys is the same stuff that I do. I had something I called Millionaire Mentorship, which was Millionaire Mastermind. Every Monday at this exact same time, Millionaire Mastermind. But I started, talking, and I'm like, listen, why not share this with everyone? Why am I only sharing this with my internal people, my internal sales team? And so this is stuff that I was doing anyway. So the question is, if you want to build your own brand online, is how do you do it? And how do you monetize that? Well, the first thing I'm going to tell you is don't look to monetize it for a long time. So this is not about coming on to a social media thing and saying, how can I make money? People will run from that. What I learned on social media is my goal was to give away 90% of it, and I'll monetize 10% of it. So, for example, how I benefit out of this is all of you guys that are watching, as you guys know, my core business is the Professionals Network. I own several entities underneath that, which is Waste Network and the Energy Network, etc. We've brought in like 13 amazing people from all of you guys that are watching this to say, hey, I want to work with you, Kori. What do you do? How do you guys make 7 figures? How are they doing that? And so my monetization just happened naturally by people asking me what I do for my core business. And so people will ask you. What people make a mistake on is they think they can utilize social media to make money. And the ratio, and again, I'm going back to the big people, right? So Gary Vee, who's got like 5 million followers just on one platform, I think Instagram. He's got about 4 million followers as well on YouTube. You got Grant Cardone, who I spent time with. You've got obviously Tony Robbins, who's done a lot of stuff on social media lately. You've got the Millionaire Mentor, who's actually got the highest number of followings for personal development that's out there. They will all tell you, Gary Vee, as I mentioned, they will all tell you that what you want to do is the ratio needs to be around 70-30. 70%, you're just giving the world all of your shit, right? You're giving the best of you, the best of what you do. You're giving away 70% of it, and you can then monetize 30% of it. So for me, I started first of the year. Actually, I just started 1st of January. One of my goals this year was to get my stuff out there, right? And so I don't spend a heck of a lot. Basically, most of this is from you guys, sharing with people that you know and sharing what I do out there. Of course, giving away $10,000 in a half an hour kind of helps the cause, but bribing you guys to do so. And don't get me wrong, I gave away like $30,000. But that's stuff that I do anyway. I mean, we did a cruise here about a year ago. We gave away like $35,000 in cash. Those that are coming to Vegas, we're talking about doing a money guns, and shelling out $100,000. That's the stuff I love doing. I love giving back. I love contributing. But back to your core question is how do you gauge it of what is creating impact? You just got to keep doing it until you start seeing results. It's kind of like the thing where, you guys have seen that Martin, you've seen the picture of the what am I thinking of? The iceberg, and underneath the iceberg, how much you don't see that hasn't even popped out of the water yet. Or you talk about a large tree and you don't see the root system that's underneath of that. You don't see it popping out of the ground like the Chinese bamboo tree that literally takes 5 years in the ground as a seed before it actually comes out of the ground. And after it comes out of the ground, within 6 months, it grows like 500 feet tall. Yeah. It's crazy, right? But that's the way it is, that you just keep putting yourself out there. I don't even know half the time what I'm even going to talk about. I don't even know what I'm going to share. I just come on and share myself, and that's what people want. By the way, if you guys want to really build a brand on social media, this is actually something that was done as a competition that turned into something a lot of fun with our marketing team, which is Business Nitrogen. They handle all of my marketing. They're the best of the best. You follow Tony Robbins. They built Business Mastery for Tony Robbins as far as the selling of Business Mastery. They work with Chet Holmes before he passed away, the Ultimate Sales Machine. They're the best of the best, and they provide something for free that's out there. Probably one of the best trainings that I've ever been through. It's called 1millionfollowers.me. So the number 1 and then millionfollowers.me. And you can join that for free. You can pay, I pay $10, and for $10, whenever they go live, I can't watch it live on Tuesdays. It actually records it, and then you can go and watch the video from that. If you really want to understand what it takes to build a brand online, it's David Asarno and it's 1millionfollowers.me. That'll help you a lot. So I'm not sure if that helped you, Martin, at all, but
Oh yeah, for sure.
you just got to keep pushing. Well, Martin, what people want is they want real. So don't just come on to there. Yeah, I will tell you half of the people that watch me come on for the entertainment value because I don't give a shit. I swear at times. I do what I want to do. I just share the truth, and I don't sugarcoat anything. You don't want to go onto there and be so proper and so uptight and try being professional. You just want to be real. You want to show videos of you and things that you're doing and things that you're doing with your kids. And it's challenging if you're a professional because you don't want to be, in your mind, you think, well, I got to be professional all the time. I can't be so revealing. But that's what people buy into is the authentic you. The authentic Martin is what they want to see, to say, hey, this guy has a life just like I do. He's trying to juggle stuff in the car with the kids. He's trying to do this stuff when he's at a baseball game. He's trying to do this stuff, and it's not easy to juggle. But people want to see that authenticity from you, and they'll start following you because of that. Great question, buddy. All right, let's go to the next.
Martin.
And by the way, Martin, we'll make sure we get you the 3-month subscription to Audible. Let that one first. I love this. This is actually fun to me.
This is fun.
Doing this. By the way, next week, don't miss next week's live. I'm going to do a topic that I've not done before. I've done it in kind of 2 parts, but I think you'll love this topic, which is it is the 21-90 rule. 21 days to create a habit, 90 days to create a lifestyle. I'm going to show you how you can do something I call working hard for a season, or chunking time, or going crazy with your new endeavor, your new business, or Martin's social media. But how in 90 days you can create enough momentum in 90 days, because success loves speed, momentum, and massive action. How to create your entire lifestyle and build that brand within 90 days. All right, let's go to the next question. Who do we have on?
John Clayton. I dialed him, and then you started rambling.
John the Legend Clayton. How are you, brother?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. All right, let's go with your question or comment or something personal about yourself that you wouldn't mind sharing online with 200,000 people.
Yeah, nice. So, my question's about book reading. I've consumed a lot of books, and a lot of them got some great recommendations that you want to implement, but it's tough to find the framework to get things implemented. So what's your recommendation on gleaning the most out of these books that you're reading?
So actually, John, this came from a revelation that I had from Darren Hardy. I'm not sure if it was his Compound Effect or if it was Entrepreneur Roller Coaster. I think it was Entrepreneur Roller Coaster. And it's something where, if you guys know my story, I kind of follow what Tony did, and I learned, I'll back up and talk about my story. So before I hit 19 years old, I probably had read, in all honesty, my whole high school time, probably 1 book. When I had book reports, I would just cheat. I would skim through a little bit, and I would look at the back, and I would write a book report and get good grades. I have this gift, or it's probably a gift in certain things that I do, but I can assimilate very quickly. I can regurgitate it on a test and get a great grade, but then I forget it the next day, right, which probably isn't good. But I learned that leaders are readers from all of my mentors, Jim Rohn, Tony Robbins, from Leroy Cox, from these people that I knew that leaders were readers, and if I wanted to get good, I could take, because I felt I didn't have a lot of mentors around me, right, that I felt that I could plug into. But I knew that all these people that were amazing had books they were writing, and I knew that I could plug into them and I could take 30, 40, 50, 60 years of their education that they boiled down to a 600-page book and get all of their nuggets, right, and learn from them. And so I started reading a lot, and so my goal was to read one book a week. Now, I didn't always hit that, but my goal still is to read at least one book a week. And what happened, though, for me is kind of like you, John, is I started reading all these books, and I would like take notes, or I would highlight stuff in that book that I want to implement into my life, but then it was never happening. And then I would read another book and get some other stuff, read another book and get some other stuff. So what I got out of the actual book, The Entrepreneur Roller Coaster by Darren Hardy, who's with Success Magazine, is the question becomes, John, do you feel it's better to read one book a week, right? So 52 books out of the year. Is it better to do that, or is it better to read one book 52 times and actually apply everything in that book? Now, I wouldn't quite go that far, but I backed it down to I still read, my goal is to read one book a week, but I cherry pick from those books, and I added something into my schedule, which is, what book can I keep reading over and over again and really get this down that's going to impact my life? So the Entrepreneur Roller Coaster last year, I read 12 times. That book, Entrepreneur Roller Coaster, I read 12 times. Because I wanted to get the information out and really apply it in every area of my life. So I dug down deeper into that specific book. So if you look at all the books you're reading, John, let's say you're reading one book every couple of weeks or one book a month, whatever you guys are doing, I encourage you to, and if you may say I'm not a reader, well, guess what? It doesn't matter if you think you're a reader or not. You need to be a reader. You got to keep learning and growing. And if you don't like reading, get Audible or take a speed reading course. The first thing you should learn as far as your book that you should read is how to speed read. Because once you get that down, I can take a book and assimilate that book if I wanted to in 1 or 2 days. What most people would take, 2 weeks to read on a book, I can have that whole book done in one night if I wanted to, because I learned how to speed read. So learn how to speed read. That's going to help you. Listen to Audible so you're using your net time. But then find those books, John. If you go back to all the books you've read in the last 5 years with me, go to all those books and say, what are the 3 books that I know if I implemented this stuff, it would frickin' change my life? And go back to those same books and read it over again and read it over again and read it over again. Add that back and digest at a lot deeper level versus mass reading books and never actually applying something into your life, if that makes sense.
That's perfect.
That makes sense, John? So, again, go back to all the books you've read. Pick the top 3, for example. In all of last year, the top 3 books you read that you knew that if you implemented those things would drastically change your life and measurably move your life to the next level. And find out what those books are, and then go back to those same books. I don't care if you take, let's say you read one book a week or one book every 2 weeks. What if every other week you read a new book, but also you grabbed a hold of those 3 books and read it again? And I mean, my mentor made me read my first year with him, Think and Grow Rich, every other week. He made me read Think and Grow Rich, and to the point where he would get together with me whenever we get together, and he would, out of the blue, we'd be preparing for an event, and he would say, hey, Kori, I bargained with life for a penny. And then stop. And I would have to come back to him and say, and life would pay no more. But I begged in the evening when I counted my scanty store, because life is a just employer. It'll pay you what you ask. But once you set the wages, you must bear the task. I mean, I still memorize this stuff. It's still in my head. And I go back to the same stuff over and over again, because he made me read it so many times that it became SOP in my mind to the point that I started applying it into my life. It's like, you know how we talk about, John, the affirmations or incantations. You say the same things over and over again until you start believing them. Same thing is true with the books you're reading. Is take those books and highlight them. And it may not you don't have to read the whole book again if you don't want to. But it's amazing to me when I read Think and Grow Rich the first time when I was 19 years old, and then I went through and I highlighted stuff. And then I went through it again. I didn't read it a lot for another probably 6 months until Leroy gave me this task every other week to read it again. And then I would highlight other stuff. By the time I went through it like 3 times, I had every frickin' thing underlined, because I was like building upon the stuff I had in the past and the most important things that were at that time in my life. So it'll really impact your life, John, if you go back to all the things you're reading, all the things you're doing. And I will tell you, it's probably better than reading 52 books out of the year, like new books. It's better to read the 3 books combined 52 times because you're actually applying it into your life versus just going to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next. Yep. Full immersion, John. You know what that's about.
Absolutely.
Great question, buddy. Talk soon.
Thanks.
Thanks, John. Can't wait to see you in Vegas.
Yep.
All right, we're going to grab the next person here. Look at some of the notes. Yeah, I'll put the speaker closer to the mic.
Sorry about that, guys.
And as you guys know, I speak loud, so that's probably why.
This is Bruce.
Hey, Bruce, how are you, brother?
Good.
All right, go ahead with your question or comment.
Let me walk away from the computer because I lost connection for a second, and if there's a delay, but I still hear you talking. I just wanted to make a comment for those that like use an alarm and have a snooze button. They just need to take that alarm clock and like throw it in the ocean, or just get rid of it, because if you can't get up on time, and or let's say if you want to be successful, but you're struggling on getting up and being ready to go to be successful by at least by 7 a.m., then you're probably not serious about becoming successful. And I learned that at a very young age. And I chuckle when I hear the snooze button or an alarm, because I wake up every morning at 4:30, 4:45, and I get up and I don't lay there. I actually lay there and I think about, okay, this is what I got to do, this, and this. Learned that a long time ago from a mentor, but once I get up, I'm up, and you just try to make things happen. But
well, Bruce, no matter what you do, my question to you is this. If you hit snooze, does that 10 minutes actually impact or benefit you at all anyway? And you hit snooze again, you wake up, you hit snooze again another 10 minutes. Does that benefit you anyway?
No, I don't have an alarm. I don't have a snooze button, but the answer is no. It doesn't.
Here's the whole question I have for all of you guys. If you're having to hit snooze that many times, you got to fix something in your life, because that means you're not excited about your life at all. You guys know, Bruce, for most people, they can sleep 8 hours a night, but they know they're going to go to a trip somewhere and go to Cancun or go, I would say Cancun, but yeah, people are getting beheaded there now. So let's say you go to some amazing place, you're going on vacation or going to do something fun. You can't sleep, right? You're so excited you can't sleep, and you got to get your life to that point. Now, you may not love your job, but if you followed me very long, you know what I talk about is you got to find a way to create impact at your current job. Then, if you're still going to this job and you may not like it, make it fun, make it exciting. I don't care if you're a waitress. I don't care if you work at a bank. I don't care what you do. I don't care if you work in rendering. Find a way to have fun with what you do and create more impact, get more cash flow coming in, and then do your side business or whatever you're doing, but find a way to create more excitement in your life. If you're hitting snooze, that means you're not excited about your life.
Exactly. I really struggle with the snooze button and even having an alarm.
I actually read and actually no, I didn't read it. I actually heard from Caleb and Rachel. They were reading a book about sleeping. And you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. I'm just paraphrasing what you told me like 6 months ago. But if you can't sleep at least 45 minutes, then you're not getting into your deep sleep anyway, and it doesn't benefit you whatsoever. In fact, it has a negative impact on you. So you want to get into that sleep that it's going to benefit you. You got to have 45 minutes. If you can't lay down for at least 45, it might have been longer, but if you can't lay down for at least 45 minutes.
I thought it was an hour and a half.
It might have been. Caleb, you can help me with this if you're watching.
Yeah, I'm a member of National Geographic, and they did a spread on sleep and the brain and all that, and it's fascinating. But yeah, I understand it. And you got to get a little bit of sleep and enough, but I just not being able to get up in the morning, but you want to be successful, those just don't work.
Yeah, thank you, Bruce. What Caleb said is an hour and a half. So the book that he read, and they did all kinds of studies on sleeping, that if you can't sleep for an hour and a half, it's no good to you anyway. So when you sleep, you want an hour and a half increment. So if you're sleeping 4 hours, right, you decide you need more time, you sleep 5.5. If it's 5.5, right, and you want to sleep more, it's got to be 7 hours.
Yeah.
Caleb said naps can be any length to help with decision making and clearness. So what he's saying is when you take a nap, that actually can help you. I usually sleep about 4.5 hours a night, and then I take whenever I hit a brick wall at 3 or 4, because sometimes I'm working 16 hours in a day, sometimes more. I take a nap.
Yeah, I take a nap 25 minutes. I learned that a long, long time ago, too. But it works for me, and, you know.
Yeah, you're awesome, Bruce.
There's
Thank you.
something you can be doing to further your business. Thanks, Kori.
We'll make sure we get your 3-month Audible subscription. Appreciate you, Bruce. Can't wait to see you in Vegas, buddy. Who do we have? Again, go ahead and type your questions in, and I'll address all the questions you have. So if you guys are too shy to come on air, which I don't think any of you guys are, if you're too shy to come on air, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, do it anyway. This is a good habit. But if you're too shy to come on air, type your question. And by the way, this is kind of cool. This is why I love having a residual business, and why when we talk about making money while you sleep, I just got a text message from one of my partners. He said, we made $400,000 today and counting. So I always love it. We have a $400,000 day. I mean, we've had a $1.5 million day before, so we'll see what we can get done today. But that's why you want to have a residual business.
Okay, we have Michael Christian on.
The one, the only, the man, the myth, the legend. Hey, Michael Christian.
Hey, Kori, brother. How's it going? I love the shows. Enjoy it every week.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it. So what's your question, comment, or the most embarrassing thing that's ever happened to you?
Other than this
Well, I
moment.
spent 8 years in the Army, so not too many embarrassing more things can happen anymore than what I've done in there.
Now we're going to go back to that point at some point. We're going to talk about your military days when we get together.
There you go. I'll be more than happy to have some fun with that. I have plenty of fun stories there. My question for you today, Kori, was in terms of business, of course, and in all your ventures, when did you, let's say, have a business venture that didn't turn out with the expected results that you wanted, and what was the greatest lessons learned that you gained from that experience that you could share with us to move forward with?
That's awesome, Michael. Did you guys all hear that question? So Michael's asking the question about business, and of course we talk about, which everyone does, right? I talk about my successes all the time. I mean, I've had, in my career, to be quite fair, I've had 3 massive home runs. The one I'm in right now is a home run. I've had 3 home runs, and I've had 2 what I would consider failures, and you can say it's success because you learn from it, but it felt like shit either way, Michael. It felt like shit either way when you fail. So first of all, I'll tell you, if I give any words of wisdom to anybody, I would say the first thing, in my 20s, you guys have heard the story, I mean, by the time I was 19 years old, I was making over $1 million a year. And I was very successful bringing cash flow in, but I learned the hard way. It doesn't matter how much fucking money you make, it's how much you keep. Right? It doesn't matter how much money you make, it matters what you keep. And no one taught me the investment side of it. So I went through what I call my toy stage. I mean, I would buy a diamond ring that would cost me $10,000. I would get a jet boat that would cost me $30,000 just driving. Hey, I like that boat. I'll buy the boat. Or I would buy, every 6 months or a year, I'd trade off and get new cars. Or I would, spend $5,000-6,000 on a suit. I call that my toy stage. I thought it would never end. And so the first thing I would say, this is not your specific question, but you got to learn all these aspects. So if you want to be good at anything you do, number 1, understand that it doesn't matter what you make, it's what you keep. Number 2 is learn to invest. And the ratio I give is 40% of your money has to go in investments, and not crazy investments, money you're not going to touch that's going to make you money back. But the other thing is that you also have to learn that, and by the way, this does lead into your question, Michael, because if you don't have that investment thing there, if you don't have that cushion, when you have something that you do that doesn't turn out as expected and it fails, you can jump back. You can bounce back and have those failures because you will have failures. But if you don't have that buffer in there, you don't have anything to say for rainy day. I'll give you one of the examples I'll give you is in my later 20s. So I actually started a call center. And that call center, because I had a lot of success, and I started this call center in my hometown and spent $1.2 million opening the call center up. And I can blame whatever I want to blame. I can blame it on, for example, my partner who was pulling money out of the company I didn't know about. I can blame it for the fact that we started that call center, Michael, 3 months before the do not call list came out. No one ever heard of a do not call list. Excuse me. And I'm dying. But they started this call center. I started this call center. We had New York Times. We had ZTEL, which was like we had MCI. We had all these major companies that I already had become smart. So I already had gathered these accounts and had contracts with them prior to opening up, putting the $1.2 million in. Well, the do not call list came out, and no one knew what to do with it, or the fines, or the auto dialing laws, or what you could do or couldn't do, and so everyone just stopped the business. And so long story short is that company that I spent $1.2 million on, I was actually working so many hours that in the place where I had the office, that call center, which by the way would happen to be the same office that Johnny Carson first started on the radio when I started, which was kind of cool, that thing you didn't know and really care about, but I wanted to share it with all of you. It was Johnny Carson's first place he started on the radio, and that was where my office was. But I actually got a place to sleep there. I had a bed on the floor. I would sleep 3 or 4 hours. I worked there all day long. But we had made a commitment not to pull any money out of that company, and so almost a year later I found out because I didn't handle the books. I had my partner handling the books. I didn't care. I just said, I'll make revenue happen. I'm a rainmaker. I'll make it happen, and you handle the money. Well, I didn't find out that she was pulling money out of that for her husband's construction company that I didn't know about. So what I would say that I learned from that, number one is do as much due diligence as you can, but you can't predict. I couldn't have predicted the FTC was going to come out with the do not call list at the timing that it did. I couldn't have predicted that. The technology we bought, which is our dialing system, only about a year and a half later, everyone went everything cloud. So all my stuff was outdated. But I sold that company for 1 year after it started for about $200,000. And I spent $1.2 million to do it. But I also learned that you inspect what you expect. So you bring somebody else in to work for your business. I don't care what you're good at. I'm good at making deals happen. I'm good at making sales. I'm a rainmaker, right? I can pull things out of thin air. People say it can't be done. I do it. All that doesn't matter if you're not watching the backside of it. So number one is I don't care what you do. You've got to understand taxes, at least at a high level, because you don't know. You can't tell whether you're a financial officer, CFO, or if you're a brand new business. You don't know whether you're accountant who doesn't mean they're a CPA or doesn't mean they've taken anything about understanding tax deductions. You don't know how to gauge whether they're doing their job right or not because you don't have an understanding of it. 40% of your money is going in taxes. 50% count everything, but about half your money is going into taxes. No matter what you do, you've got to understand that. Number two is you have to have a backup. You got to not backup plan, but you have to have money so that you can make these mistakes and bounce back again. When that happened to me, because I had no savings, if I made $65,000 in a month, I could spend 63. I was really good at that. I could make $110,000, spend $120,000. I mean, I would go somewhere and say, hey, let's go ahead and buy a round for everybody in this place, And I felt really cool for about 3 minutes, but nobody cared. After that point. So you gotta just learn from your challenges, and you got to have the ability to understand taxes, understand investments, and you also got to understand how to inspect what you expect. And that's something that Tony teaches, as you know, Michael, you follow Tony Robbins, the value chain, right? You have to know that if I delegate something to Bree and say, I want this done, and Bree delegates it to someone else and someone else and someone else, the end result is all of our responsibilities. Just because I delegated it to her, I've got to come back to her and say, did that get done? And if I don't inspect what I expect, I'm going to be let down, because if you have a company like what we have, where we've got 340 some people working with us, we're now expanding, we're going to have 1,000 people working for us. What are the chances someone's screwing up right now and messing something up and doing something wrong? Very good probability of that happening. And so you've got to inspect what you expect, and you got to bring the right people in to help you to move forward. But realize you're going to make mistakes, you're going to have challenges. But the last thing I'll give you, Michael, is this that I had to learn. You can make excuses all day long with my CFO or the timing or the money or the whatever it might be. You can find excuses for it. But if you start a business and it's your business, you are responsible for everything that happens there and the results. So as you guys know, in my early 20s, I was in direct sales. So if I knew I had to hit $100,000 in volume that month or $500,000 in volume that month, I personally had to make sure that I was responsible for and created half of that was my goal. So if I had my team and I had one time 65,000 people that were in direct sales and in my team, and if I wanted to go to the next position and have $500,000 I had to produce in volume that month, I would put a mark of $250,000 that I personally was responsible for making sure that happened, and actually back in those days, faxing in applications and doing whatever I had to do to structure it to make sure that happened. You are the rainmaker. You are responsible for everything that happens there. And once you understand that and you quit making excuses, I keep thinking of other things too. Michael, the other thing I would tell you is that people make a mistake on is they think, well, if I create this company and I have a great website that's going to do something for me, or if I'm not making sales happen, let me create a new website, or let me put more money into marketing. Let me put more may hire another person to come in. No. If you start a company, you are the salesperson. Go out and sell it and then figure out how to do it. Don't get an office space. You want to start a restaurant, get the small space you can. Go out and make sure it's going to succeed, and then keep scaling it. Start small. Don't just have this idea, I'm going to start a business and start a whatever company and have it happen. Do your research. Figure it out. Be intelligent about it. So, Michael, probably more than you needed to know, but those are some of the things, the nuggets that I got in my career, having to learn the hard way, again, having 2 failures and having 3 massive successes, is I've learned from that, is to say, hey, you've got to learn how to save for a rainy day. You've got to learn how to understand taxes, understand investments, understand these pieces that I may not be responsible for today, but I know how it works. When I get on the phone with my CFO, I know a balance sheet, how to read it. I know a cash flow situation. I've taken courses, with Keith Cunningham, which I'm sure you follow as well, Michael. Keith Cunningham, to understand how to understand the financial side of this. I can read a balance sheet, right, and know whether my company's doing good or not doing good, because you can grow too fast, you can grow too slow. You think you're doing well, but because your cash flow looks good, but it only looks good because you borrowed money. So you got to understand these things. You inspect what you expect. Thank you, Michael. Appreciate it.
All right, thanks, Kori. Appreciate it. Love the energy, brother.
Thank you. Appreciate you. Yeah, see you in Vegas, buddy. All right, we're going to go we've got a couple more people that we can bring in. Again, ask your questions. Anything you guys type as a question, I will answer. You guys that actually type in the comment section know that I actually physically go through there later tonight, later in the middle of the night. I will review everything and answer you guys with questions that you might have. Okay, who do we got here? Ooh, I like this one.
Me too.
Hello?
Caleb James Toltzman, you are on the air.
Hey, Kori.
Hey, buddy.
So my question is, when you have, your health and your business, and your career, your family life, and you're trying to improve all those things, where do you focus first? And maybe how many things do you focus on at one time? And then what habits do you build to track or reflect on those habits to make sure that you're going in the right direction, and maybe when you should change that direction?
Great question, Caleb. So, as I know, Caleb is an overachiever as well. So when you read something, you do something, you start tackling so many things, and you just get overwhelmed, and so you're not moving the needle forward in any area. So first of all, the first thing I'm going to answer to you, the question that people always talk about is, how do you create balance? I'll just say, fuck that. You're not going to be balanced. If you want to succeed in any area of your life, you only have so much time and so much resources. Your question is, how do you get more value out of those resources, right? If you're juicing something, how do you get more juice out of that, out of your life? How do you find more time? So you got to focus on the first thing you start with, Caleb, is how do you find more time? And that comes down to chunking your time, figuring out what you're doing, but you got to schedule these things. So I actually look at every area of my life, things I call centerline, and centerline to me is I want to improve every single day, every single week, every single month, every single year. I want to improve these areas. I want to improve my health, my money, my business, which comes down to that money part of it. I want to improve my lifestyle. I want to find ways to get more money and more value out of the time that I am putting in. So how do I do that? So the first thing you got to do is say, what do I want to change? Well, if one area is my health, what are the things I got to do to change my health? If I want to change my business, how do I change my business? How do I change my investments? So find those things. And then you've got to come back to it and say, okay, now how do I make the most value in every area? You guys know my whole story about whether it's golfing, whether it's you're taking off in an airplane, is 2 millimeters, right? You are 2 millimeters away from everything that you want by simply shifting a little bit and then going to the next plateau and shifting a little bit more and the next plateau. So it's not about... It's about creating momentum behind it. So if you look at my health, what are the two or three things that I need to be doing right now to impact my health the most? Well, number one, breathing right, and two, drinking more water. I'll start with that. If I'm starting from scratch. What are the things I should focus on with my investments? Well, understand the easiest thing is to understand is I stack cash. I get as much cash as I can, and I invest it in the places that I know. For example, I'll invest in the S&P 500 with Vanguard is the best one I think out there. To give my opinion, is I'll invest my money with Vanguard, or I'll invest it with Grant Cardone. Put $10,000 in. I know Mo Raza just did, but invest with Grant Cardone. I will find things that don't take me more time, but I can be smart about it. If it comes down to my business, what are the things that I personally do that will impact my business the most? So business owners always get in this trap. They'll come to me and say, how do I improve my business? How do I make more money? Well, I'm spending so many hours. What are you spending those hours on? Well, I'm returning 147 emails a day. I'm doing handling purchasing. I'm in this conference room, this business meeting. The challenge is you're focusing on tackling all these things, but you're not realizing the 2 or 3 things that you personally should be doing that move the needle forward the most. So if I ask you in business, what are the 2 or 3 things that you do that you've got to do every single day to move your company forward? So is it you being on with a client? Well, guess what? I want to focus as much time as I can on the phone with clients. If it is talking to my sales team, I need to focus on talking to my sales team. Whatever the income-producing things that you're doing, that's what you want to focus on. So in every area, we always talk about the compound effect of things. So if you simply work on your health, so the first thing is, hey, I'm going to just go for a walk. I'm going to walk 6 days a week and walk for a half an hour. If that's all you're starting with, that's a starting point. This week, I'm also going to eat better by buying better food for my family and myself. So that's the next thing. That's not that hard to do. It doesn't take much more time. I want to start building my mindset as far as the personal development side. So I'm going to, while I'm in the car driving back and forth from work, from my regular job, I'm going to go ahead and spend a half an hour in that car growing, listening to something, learning from something. If it's reading, I'm going to read before bed. So I say tackle everything at once, but only look at the 2 millimeters, the little bits that you can change in every area. So this week, all I want to focus on this week is in every area, what are the 2 or 3 things? So again, my health, I'm going to focus on eating better and walking. If it's my finances, how do I start, budgeting my finances? And maybe if I have credit cards, how do I start? So you've got to schedule all this stuff. So create deadlines. So today, for example, I'm going to have an hour and a half at the gym. I schedule that. I'm going to have 2 hours of following up with my emails. I'm going to do that. I'm going to create a PowerPoint today. I've got an hour deadline to get that PowerPoint done. No ifs, no buts about it. I've got a half an hour with my kids. Each of my kids, that's 2 hours out of my day. I've got to figure out how to schedule that in. Schedule every area and only look to move the needle forward 2 millimeters in every area. The mind, the body, the health, which is part of the body, the financial side of investments, and then the last thing is your lifestyle, and focus on all of those areas. Because if you want to be a superstar in every area, and that's why again you see people who are into working out, and their body looks like a Greek god or goddess, but they're broke. You've got to focus on every area to move the needle forward, and you can make the excuse you don't have the time. But Caleb, I know you know this for a fact because you've become good at it. This question is probably partially rhetorical because you've become really good at this. Is you've got to schedule it. If it isn't scheduled, it's not going to happen. And you've got to find what you can do every single day. If you're putting your schedule together for the week on Sunday night, is every single day, what are the 2 or 3 things that I can do that make the most impact in those different areas? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's great.
So I know you're phenomenal at it. You've been probably even more regimented than I am as far as chunking your time and structuring your time and finding time for everything. Caleb, isn't it amazing though if you look back and you thought you were extremely busy? Let's go back 3 years ago, how busy you were, and you can put the same amount of hours in now and how much more impact you have because you're always laser focusing on the things that are important to you and how you move the needle forward in all 4 of those areas.
Yeah, I seem to find out that the more complicated I make things, and if I try to go too much in one area, it's overwhelming, and then you end up getting nothing done. So
you're exactly right.
Advice.
Yep, great question. Let's go ahead and field 2 more. Hey, Riley, can you make sure the Escalade's pulled out and the keys are in it? Oh, thanks, Peter. Thanks for nothing, Peter. We're so excited to talk to you, buddy. All right, so let's see. Let me look at the questions in actual Facebook and Instagram. Go ahead and type your questions in. If there's something else that you want to address really quickly, I can tackle a couple more here quickly. We got to stay under top of the hour because Instagram likes to boot us off if we go to an hour. So let's see if there's any other questions that I can address really quickly for you guys. All these questions are great. The question that Caleb just asked is something that everybody always asks, which is how do I handle it all? And those of you that are coming to Vegas, it's going to be a lot of fun because we're actually going to talk about all of this stuff, and we're going to put it all into a kind of an easy formula, and you're actually going to get a schedule, a sample schedule Next week, as you guys know, I just talked about, we're going to talk about this whole thing, which is, I call it the 2190 program, our plan, which is 21 days to create a habit in any area of your life. Create a habit, routines. How to create a habit, 21 days to create a habit, and 90 days to create a lifestyle. So any area of your life, if you basically focusing on it for 90 days and really going all in on it, how you can change your life in 90 days.
Jared wants to know what do you use for setting a app or
So Jared's asking how I schedule my week. Do I use a high-performance planner, or how do I do it? First of all, you'll get into a routine. So when you're starting from scratch. So what I recommend you to do is I actually recommend you to actually do it the old school way first, which is to simply go online, do a search for printable calendar, printable monthly calendar, and print off the next 90 days from that calendar. Take the 90 days and put again, I like this because I love technology. I love having technology. The problem I have with technology is that screen isn't always up. You don't always see it in front of you. That's the challenge. Or even people that do a vision board, right? And I like it, but I don't like it because it's not always there and accessible to you. But also, when you write things down, it puts it into your psychological mind, right? It's done differently than you typing it out. So first I would do is I would print off the next 90 days, and then I would say, okay, what do I want to do in this next 90 days? Before you do that, what do you have to do? So go ahead and take that calendar and write down, okay, I've got this, my JOB. This is the time between leaving and doing it. This is the time with the sporting event. This is the time I have for this. Put the next 90 days into that calendar. That's the first step. So that's stuff that you've already got scheduled, that you've got to take care of. The next thing is, what do you want to add to that to change your life? So the next thing I would do is, the ritual is this. One is, how much are you sleeping? Write your sleeping down. Okay, I'm already sleeping 8 hours a day. Could you get by with 7 hours a day? Could you function for a while on 7 hours of sleep? That buys you 7 hours a week of extra time. Could you get by on 7 hours of sleep? Next thing is, you put your sleep schedule in there. The next thing is, okay, I want to grow personally. I need to start learning things and grow. So I call it my hour of power. Half an hour of motivation and inspiration, and a half hour of learning something new. So when am I going to do that? The best thing is if you can find net time, no extra time. So I'm going to use net time. It could be, for example, if I'm driving in the car already, the average person spends an hour and a half a day in the car. So during that hour and a half a day, can I schedule half hour of that to listen to some YouTube video, some podcast, something that you can learn from? Or is it, and then another half an hour, for example, listening to Audible or reading a book. So schedule that hour in. That's important. The next thing is, for me, is priming. I prime myself every morning. So if I'm priming myself, can I schedule 10 minutes to prime myself? When's that going to be? For me, when I go to the gym, I've been bad lately and haven't primed for the last week and a half, which is out of my routine. But the time that I figured out that I wanted to prime, I haven't done lately, which is to go in the steam room. When I'm already at the gym, I go in the steam room for a few minutes to clear my sinuses out and to kind of get my body cooking before I take the ice cold shower. But I sit in there and I prime for 10 minutes. So figure that time out. When are you going to do that? The priming. Then it comes down to my affirmations. And the affirmations for me, I do this enough that you want to say it out loud initially, have emotion to it. I can actually say it in my head and have the same emotion behind my affirmation. So right now I have 4 affirmations, or incantations I call it, which is with emotion, that I say to myself. So one of the things I say to myself is, you are unstoppable. You are creating amazing things for people, and you can create anything you put your mind to. That's one of my incantations. So I say that over and over in my head. And so you do those things. When are you going to do those? Well, it takes you like 5 minutes. I can do it in the car. I can do it wherever I'm at. So I schedule that in there. Then the next thing is, if you want to start some kind of another business, when are you going to put that time in? When are you putting that time in for your business, your other business? You're creating your social branding, whatever it might be. And actually schedule this stuff in to that calendar. Don't go fancy schmancy right away. Put it like that, because then you can start adjusting that. If you're going to meal prep, when you're going to eat your meals, actually put that in. I've got a half hour to eat my meals. I'm going to meal prep on Sunday of this day. I'm going to meal prep all day long. I'm going to have the proteins and different things that I need. I'm going to meal prep for the next month. You can do it one Sunday for the whole month if you want to. All of this stuff, you've got to schedule it. And then once you schedule it, you start doing this. Tomorrow you wake up, your alarm is set, you get up at that time. You've got to get in routine, and it sucks. Let's use the gym as the example. How sucky is it when you go to the gym and you haven't been to the gym for a month or 2 months or 3 months, or some of you guys for a couple of years? How shitty does that feel to your body? It does not feel good. It doesn't feel amazing. because you don't have the habit yet. You don't have the routine yet. Your body hasn't adjusted yet. So you've got to get in this routine, but you've got to, all these areas I'm talking about, it's like a muscle. Can you go to the gym one time a week and have that muscle be perfect for you and whenever you need it? No. You've got to keep moving that muscle. You still, every single week, I'm doing back and bis and chest and tris and my legs. I'm doing these muscles over and over again, and that's the same thing with your brain, and same thing with your schedule, with your business, with every area of your life. You've got to schedule these things in and start creating habits and routines. So we're talking more about that next week, but that's how you do it. You start with something simple, print off a calendar, print off the next 90 days, and start writing these things down of what you're going to do with your health, so your body, with your mind, with your money, with your lifestyle, and figure out what you're going to do in every one of those areas and schedule this into your calendar and start doing it. Once this becomes SOP and you've got this down as a habit, which takes 21 days to form a habit, then you can start putting it into some kind of a planner. I use Google because all of our company has all of our email systems on Google. I schedule all my main stuff in, but all my other stuff, it's routine now to me. I don't have to sit there and remind myself to do these things. I just do it every single day. Great question. One more question, quick. I know I talk slow, but I'll see if I can talk a little faster. Cameron wants to know if I keep up with world news and politics. I'm going to tell you my opinion on it. Is every single one of you can spend no more than 10 minutes a day and know what the fuck's going on with the world and politics. 10 minutes a day. Now, my father will disagree, and he watches 5 hours a day of Fox News, and that tells you about how positive he typically is. 10 minutes a day. And the best time to do it is when you're sitting on the pot in the morning or whenever you're doing it. Find out what news sources you want, and the best thing to do is take a cross-section if you can. Find the news sources you want to follow that's going to be potentially unbiased, or got to just check each one of them. Look at the top stories so you have to know what's happening in the world, right? I'm not saying I'm opposed to you being a part of and trying to create impact, but I will promise you is that negativity sells, and people focus on all this negative stuff. Mother Teresa is kind of interesting because she said that she's never part of, what is it now? Talking about the news and everything else going on, that she focuses on what she can do, like a peace rally, or what she can do to impact and focus on the right things. You watching all these news and watching the reruns over and over again, first of all, anything happening unless it's like immediate, which you can get a notification on your phone that's like something burned down. Anything that's immediate, yeah, you can look at it, but you can have the whole news for the day in 1 hour. They repeat the same shit, different directions after that first hour, but every single one of you can follow for 10 minutes. Now, how about voting for someone, right? Well, voting for someone, here's what my plan is that I have people that I trust in politics, and I let them follow everything and give me their opinion on it, and then I wait till the debates, the last 3 debates typically, I watch those last 3 debates, and then I make my decision. Well, is it going to benefit you at all if, again, I'm not saying I'm opposed to it. I'm simply saying you want to be positive. Watching the news is not going to make you positive. You want to be motivated, it's not going to make you motivated. And you're spending all this time doing it. Just like I said, I have nothing against people watching the College World Series right now. It's happening to be in my hometown. I don't mind you doing that. I don't mind you watching SportsCenter 6 hours a Sunday. I don't mind you going to events and going out drinking or doing whatever you want to do on the weekends. I'm simply saying this. If you want your life to be different, you got to change something. You got to find that time from somewhere, and that stuff's not going to benefit you. So if you're broke and watching Fox News, that's not going to help you at all. So you've got to figure out what that formula is. But again, I think 10 minutes a day to see what's happening. That's what I do. 10 minutes a day, I already know what's happening, in the world, and that's plenty of time for me to do that. And if you look at the politics part of it, I wait till we get down to the last 3 debates, and I make my decision from that. And then I talk to people that I actually trust that follow this shit all the time. Great questions, everybody. I appreciate your time. Love it. I love being able to do this with you guys and create some impact. I'm excited to have you guys in Vegas. If you're still debating on it, you got less than 2 months until we're going to be in Vegas. I will tell you the commitment of spending $1.5 grand to truly impact and change your life is cheap. I mean, it is. But the problem with most people is they focus on the cost of going versus the cost of not going. What is it going to cost you by not being immersed in this stuff for 30 hours in 3 days and around amazing? What's it going to cost you not to be there? And that's the question you have got to ask yourself is, what is the cost of you not going to cost you over the next year, the next 2 years, the next 3 years, the next 5 years? And I will tell you, you're going to get so many different revelations or breakthroughs at that event. And I know that for a fact because I know who we've got coming in to speak at that event and what the impact's going to be on your life, and really getting this down to a science and an art form versus this hodgepodge, come here an hour a week or whatever else. It'll literally take you, what we're going to do there, it'll take you, 35, 40 many weeks, plus all the momentum you don't get. So probably going to take you the next 2 years or 3 years coming on to this every single week to get what we're going to give you guys in 3 days. So make the effort to get there if you can. Thanks, guys. I appreciate your time. We'll talk to you guys next week as we have the discussion of the 2190, 21 days to change your life, create a habit, and 90 days.